Okay, so it has been 35 days since we started the Cyser Mead. And as you can see, if it was still pushing, instead of the metabisulfite being on this side, it would be on this side. So there is no pressure at all in this carboy. And so more than likely that means that the yeast are finished and they are no longer pushing. And as you can see, it is fairly clear, and you can see on bottom that is the dead yeast, the bentonite, and right here we have the cinnamon stick. And so it sunk to the bottom of the carboy. So what we're going to be doing this time is we're going to rack over, and we're going to take a specific gravity reading. There's a hydrometer in the test tube, all the equipment we will need, and here is the carboy that we have cleaned and sanitized. And we cleaned with one-step cleaner, and we sanitized with sodium metabisulfite. Okay, so we will show you that next. Okay, so we racked it over. We left behind a little more. So we left behind a little more than I would have liked. But I looked at the mead once we had finished racking, and there were a few. It sort of looked like a crystallized, maybe either from the apples or the honey. There was a little bit of something on the top, and we've had this before whenever we've made a melomel, and so I wouldn't want to rack that into the new carboy, and so it's okay. I mean, of course I hate to leave any mead behind, but that was probably a good amount anyway. Okay, so what we're going to show you next is we're going to take a gravity reading of the Cyser, and we are going to see where the sugar levels are now. Of course, we started out really high. We started out at, I believe it was 1153. And so this mead had a lot of sugar in it whenever we began. So we are about to test it. So the baster, of course, we only use this for mead making. It's going to be cleaned and sanitized. And it already has been, but we're clean freaks. Whenever it comes to mead, we make sure that there's no possibility that any of our equipment in any way, shape, or form needs to be cleaned or sanitized. Okay, so we have the hydrometer already in the test tube, and so we're going to go ahead and decompress the baster, and then we are going to put it inside. And usually it takes about 2 basterfuls to fill the hydrometer, or excuse me, the test tube up high enough so that we know how much sugar we have, or sometimes, of course, we don't have any sugar left in the mead. But there's no way this one's going to be a dry mead considering how high we started. 1153 is very high. And so I expect this to I would think around 1010. Okay, we're also going to have a taste test in just a moment. Okay, so I'm putting... Alright, so let's have a look at where we are. And give that a spin to make sure there are no bubbles on the hydrometer. And then we are going to get a reading. Yeah, so we are right at 1020. And that does not surprise me. And so that's going to be a fairly sweet mead. And it's probably done. I mean, considering what we saw from the airlock, it didn't seem like there was any pressure at all coming from the carboy. And so it may finish at 1020, which is okay. It'll just be a sweeter mead. Okay, so next what we're going to do is have a taste test, and we are excited about this because it will be our first taste test of this mead, of the Cyser Mead, and so it will be really interesting. Okay, so this is what the Cyser Mead looks like in the glass, and so it looks really nice. And it still has some clearing to do, but that is pretty good. Okay, so my wife is going to taste it first.
Smells good.
Does it smell like apples at all? Or honey?
Smells like honey. a hint of apples, but not a whole lot like the apples. More like the honey. Oh, that's really good.
Okay, so
I like it.
my wife really liked it. What would you consider on a scale of 1 to 10?
A 10. I like that
It's a
one.
10 already?
Yeah, I like that one already.
Oh, wow.
And
That's...
it doesn't have any age on it, so that's awesome.
Yeah, for me, as you can see, we haven't put the glass back in front yet. Yeah, so for me to taste that good, that early, only 35 days in, is a really, really good sign. That is a very good sign. So would you want to do 5 gallons of that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're really happy with this. The only thing we have to decide now is who gets to finish the rest of the glass. And then after that, we are going to put an airlock and a bung on this carboy, and we are going to let it age. And as you can see, this is the 1 gallon mark. And so we did lose a little bit. And like I said, that's a little more than I like to lose in a racking. But there were some, it's hard to explain, but it looks like little crystals sometimes when you make a melomel, and I think it's from the fruit, and it's from the pectic enzyme breaking up the cells in the fruit. And so we usually get a little bit of that whenever we make a melomel, and when that happens, we just make sure that we don't get it in the racking. And so even though, of course, it's sad to leave any mead behind, we are going to have to leave a little bit of that behind. So this carboy is really, really clear in the end. Okay, so we'll show you the next step of just putting the bung and the airlock on next. Okay, so we decided to add the Cyser Mead to this 1 gallon carboy, and it's because it has a big mouth. The reason why is we also decided to add some oak. And so that is American Oak Medium. And so my wife and I were talking about it, and we thought the oak went perfect with the apple cider flavor. And so we are going to oak it. We'll let it set for 1 week like this, and then we will rack it over again. But it is really, really, really good. And so we're pretty excited about this batch, and more than likely it means we are going to make a 5 gallon batch of this mead. And so it was excellent. And we'll give you an update next week as soon as we rack it over and let you see what it looks like then. It should be more clear by then, and also we'll have the oak flavor. Okay, so it's been 2.5 weeks since we put the oak on the Cyser. So we had to use this big mouth 1 gallon because the oak would not fit in the smaller mouth 1 gallons. And so it's been sitting for 2.5 weeks on the oak. And this is American Medium Oak Spiral. And there it is. And so we are going to rack it over. And as you can see, there's a little bit of sediment on bottom. And so we're going to rack it over to get it off of the oak. Maybe you can't see. There we go. It's a little better. So as you can see, there's a little bit of sediment on bottom. And so we're going to rack it over to pull the oak off of it, and also to make sure none of that sediment is in the Cyser. After that, we're going to do a taste test. We are going to let it sit for 1 more week because as you can see, there's a little bit of pressure still in the carboy. And you can tell that because the water is still pushing just a little bit. And so we're going to give it a little more time even after we rack over. But we tasted the Cyser last time, and it was one of our favorites. And so there's a good possibility that we're going to make a 5 gallon batch of the Cyser. Okay, so I'll show you the racking over next. Okay, so I wanted to show you the equipment that we're going to need. This is the racking cane, and so we're going to use it. Also the hydrometer and the test tube. Once we rack over, here's the carboy. We just washed it in 1-step cleaner. And over here is sodium metabisulfite. And so it's been washed and sanitized. So the carboy is drying right now. The airlock and the bung have both been washed and sanitized. This whipping cane, we won't need it today because it is still pushing. But we're also going to finish our lemon clove mead tonight, and so we'll use the whipping cane for that. And so we are just about ready to rack over. We're just waiting on the carboy to dry a little bit, and then we are going to get started. Okay, so I'm going to put the bottom of the racking cane close to the big mouth. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and put the tube in the carboy that we're racking into. And I'm going to put quite a bit in so that it doesn't rub up against anything. Alright, so then I'm going to put the cane in the top of the Cyser. I'll pull some liquid. It usually takes about 2 to 3 times. Should be one more. And almost. And now it's going. Okay. So I'm going to tilt the cane over. And as you can see, if I'm not careful, it'll touch the oven, which I don't want to happen. And now I'm going to watch it. I'm going to sit down and watch it. And what I'm wanting to do is to try to get as much meat out as I possibly can. And so I have the racking cane right here. And as the meat goes further and further down, I'll keep moving it down until I get it really close to the bottom. And then I have to tilt the carboy over, the big mouth carboy over. But I have to be careful because if I tilt too fast, it'll stir up the sediment, and we don't want that. We want the sediment to stay in this carboy. We do not want to rack it over. Again, sometimes mead makers, they don't care about the sediment because it's pretty much just, them, and maybe their families are going to be drinking it, and that's okay, but we're going to be giving some of this away, and so we try to get all the sediment out that we can. This is my wife's favorite mead so far, isn't that right?
That's right.
She really likes this one. She likes the blueberry that she made on her own, and she also likes the spice mead that we made to give away to our friends on Christmas. And before that, I'm pretty sure the blueberry and the spice were her favorite, but after the Cyser Mead, she really liked this one. Even more than the spice, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so now I'm going to have to start to tilt a little bit. And I'm just going to go slow, and the towel just slid on me a little. With the 1 gallons, it really moves fast in the racking. With the 5 gallon, it's a lot slower. Alright, so that's going to be about it. I had a little bit of sediment that was working its way toward the racking cane, so I'm going to stop there. Okay, so you can see it. See the Cyser here? It's really pretty. It's dark brown. Again, we made this with a stick of organic cinnamon and 22 Honeycrisp apples. After that, we let it set for 1 month, and then we oaked it for 2.5 weeks. So we're just now pulling the oak off. We'll let it set for about another week, and then after that, we are going to bottle. But we're going to show you the taste test next. Okay, so as you can see, we now have the 1 gallon carboy, the smaller mouth. We have the bung and the airlock on, and this is what the Cyser looks like. There's absolutely no sediment, and it's really pretty. It's nice and clear. See my hand behind it, but it is dark and golden brown. It's really pretty. And of course, there's the oak spiral afterwards. And this is the one that we are going to taste test. So my wife will go first. And as you can see, this one's not quite as clear. This is a little bit of that sediment that was left behind. So it's going to be much clearer than this whenever we have a taste test of the one that we just racked. But we don't want this to go to waste. And so we're going to give it a shot and see what it tastes like with the oak. All right, so my wife's going to go first.
Smells incredible. Oh yeah, that's really, really, really good.
Is it better than last time?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That was good.
So the oak definitely added a lot of character to the size. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever tasted of a mead that was that good.
It's really, really good.
And so it's not, we're not bragging or anything, but if you like Cyser Mead, this is a really, really good recipe. And so I definitely want to do 5 gallons. What do you think?
I think we should definitely do 5 gallons. Maybe
Yeah. 10. My wife wants to do 10. So yeah, the cinnamon comes through. The Honeycrisp apple really comes through. The honey comes through. And the oak is just the right amount. It needed 2 weeks. 2 weeks was, or 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks was perfect. Any longer than that, it probably would have been a little overpowering. But that is really, really good. Okay, so we're going to let the one that we just racked set for exactly a week. And then after that, we are going to finish with potassium metabisulfite and potassium sorbate. And we will whip it, and then we will bottle. But as you can see, it is still pushing a little bit, so it's not 100% finished. And so we have to give it a little more time. But that is a really, really, really good mead. We're definitely going to make a 5-gallon, or my wife has her way, even a 10-gallon of this. Okay, so that's it for now.